Hello. Hey, this is Myat. Currently, I'm work as a senior Android developer at Lomotif company in Singapore. So I'm a WTM ambassador from Myanmar. Glad to meet you all. So let's get started our talk. So today talk is all about Android Jetpack testing. Okay. So I will talk about why we need testing. Hello? Oh, hello? It's work now? Can you hear it? Okay, thank you. So today talk is all about Android Jetpack testing, and we will talk about today why we need testing and type of Android testing, and then like Android testing in action. So firstly, why we need Android testing. So nowadays we are building a large-scale application that is needed to Android testing because we need to, when we become an Android developer, are scared to refactor code, not confident about their changes, and like we have to test a previous feature, which is working properly, and then we are not sure about our regression tab, and like when we are doing things manually, it's make our time to time is tiring, and then make you prone to mistakes, and then which is not scalability. So what about the testing on Android? So there are three types of testing in Android: local unit test, instrumentation test, and UI test. For the local unit test, okay, local unit tests are runs on your local computer, so literally on your machine that has Android Studio installed on it. They are run using the Java Virtual Machine, or JVM for short, and so it's run using the Java language on your computer, and they are very first because you don't need an emulator, or you don't need anything to do with the Android really to run them basically. So it's just running rich of code on your computer. These are the types of tests that you use to test your code logic. Means like what does this kind of method do? Does it like does this method throw an exceptions correctly? So it's all about the logic based test. So some of the mainstream libraries that probably 95% of people are going to use JUnit, JUnit, and Mockito. And there I'm going to use the JUnit 5 for JUnit test. Okay, for the instrumentation test, these are very similar to local unit tests, and you can think of it's almost the same with the little bit of different. The instrumentation test can test Android specific functionality. That means functionality, they use things like activities, fragments, content, services, all these kinds of like cycle stuff. So instrumentation tests, you need to run them on a real device or an emulator. That's because you need the Android framework. But there's a some third-party library which will you to run these tests without emulator or real device. For example, robotic, but sometimes you don't work perfectly. For example, JUnit 5, which is the newest version of JUnit, is incompatible with the robotic. At least not more than likely it will be compatible eventually, not just right now. The mainstream libraries for instrumentation tests the same for the local unit test. So however, the since JUnit file just comes out this still some Android specific dependency and didn't work perfectly within it, just like Roboledit. So for the instrumentation test, I'm going to use the JUnit 4 instead of JUnit 5. Okay, so UI tests. UI tests are literally for stimulating what the user might be doing with your application, whether that's pressing button, entering text, or basically doing anything and everything possible that a user could do. Also, it gets the things at speed that a normal user might not even be able to do, so that it might click on better, faster than user ever work, or slower than a user ever would. If your UI is gonna break your app, these tests will find that problem. Obviously, these UI tests need to be done using the Android framework because it's interacting, interacting with the UI. So you need a real device or emulator to run these tests. So UI tests are done with Espresso. Woohoo. Okay, so it's time for action. So this is a critical user journey. It's just like saving the node and add a new node. Here, I'm just referencing the architecture from the Google. So, okay. Let's say we have a small method which determined to be equal. We need to test this method before we move forward probably to write the unit test. So let's get started. Okay. The first thing, I want to expect two nodes equal. The two nodes are equal, or we retain true. We expect that to return true. And then, like, just to save time, declare a constant variable inside the companion object and create the first node and second node. We use accession to make sure nodes are same. You can see here, accession node, we make sure nodes are same. And you might wondering why I'm using the system log, because it cannot use the text log in the Android test system log. So the second method, which is expected to have the difference, so that I put the different parameter in for the ID, and then write the asset not equal to expect to get the different. Okay. So this is just a default how to make a default template for the JUnit file. So these are the shortcut to create a test. So if you click on the command plugin, which is on MacBook, and if I'm not making mistake, you can use Alt N for the window, and it will show the test method dialog. And then you can click on the when you click on the JUnit file, which automatically insert the test method, and which allow me to rename it. Oops. It's this is a default behavior of Android Studio. So if you want to build a template like this, go to the preference, and there have a go to a find and code template, and you can see JUnit, and then scroll down. You can see the JUnit file test method, and then you can edit this one. Hello? This one? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay. More action on. Okay. 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 So you can edit here whatever you want. Like here, I'm just at the organize. You can add like the rearrange or then arrange and then operation and clarify whatever you want. If you want the exception, you can add it, and then which will help you to get a default as a default test method. Okay. So this is a JUnit 5 documentation. I'm not going through that many examples, but I just wanted to be aware of different types of testing that are available with the JUnit 5. Now I want to take a look at parameterized test that's available with JUnit 5. Mm-hmm. So now I'm reached to the default in test project. You can see it, right? Mm-hmm. Uh, Actually, I'm not able to do this. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. So I will try to make more larger. Wait for me. Okay. Oops. Okay. So maybe I am. Okay. Is it really too small for the other? Okay. Okay, okay, okay. So and we use JUnit 4 for instrumentation, cause it's work below the, and we will use the JUnit 4 for instrumentation, cause it works below the API level 26. But JUnit 5, which is work over the API level 26. Okay, so this is the first thing I want to test the expectation. So I want to make sure that this expectation is not true, and I'm trying to generate the timestamps. Okay. So I just create today constant variable, and I created the test get current timestamp and return timestamp to get the timestamp. So I don't want the throw exception. So if the current month and year, the test will pass it. And now I'm going to move on the parameterized test. Okay, we use basically. So what's the parameterized test? Well, basically, it's a regular test, and you can specify some inputs that you use throughout the test. So in this example, parameterized test, it's make it possible to run a test multiple times with the different arguments. So now let's see. It's a 12 total number because wanna test different month for date you take class. So and make sure I'm not getting the correct output, and I wanna get set return. And then I use month number as an input integer, which is the value source that I specify. This is the first instrumentation test for the database. We just need to open database and get the node DAO. Remember, we are using the JUnit for these tabs. Keep that in mind. In a block, we create a temporary database, basically mock database for testing. We are calling in-memory database builder, which will exist only as long as app alive. As soon as app dying, the database destroyed and all the data is lost. So it's really perfect for testing. Now we need application context, call application provider, which is a part of Android text for dependency, and we need to reference node database. So that's a temporarily data we are gonna using for testing for each test, so that to make the sure database close correctly and all the results are just clean up. So if you want to share result, say you have to know some kind of a mock object that you want to use in both classes, which is mean the Android test and test folder that you want to build manually. You will have to build a common directory that those two can reference and use it, can access both. The common directory share between those the two test directories and can refer these nodes object inside bots here. So I just created the test common and then put inside the put inside the test util and use inside the Android test and test file test folder. That's why I call it sharing resource and then using common. Okay, live data testing. So this is the example from sample from Google, and then I just use it for the live data. So here the countdown length will help you to launch for a blocking thread until the data sets, and which will wait the 2 seconds. And then observe when the data is set, and it will call the countdown. So we will use this live data testing in unit test. Okay, this is a database testing. So we use blocking get here for sort of blocking thread, and after insert it, I read the data and then call the access to make sure what I said previous is correct, and then select the node object, and then select the select the node object using the blocking again to delete it. Okay. This is a repository test. and then I mock the node repository, and then the database, and then using the insert nodes in. Okay. Firstly, I insert node, then verifying the correct method is called, and confirm observer is trigger, and confirm new row is inserted. Okay. This is I write a method for can observer node that has been set, which is I use the live data test. And then this is a part 2 for the view model test, which is observe a node has been set and on-chain will trigger in activity. Okay. Here is the test coverage. So there is an Android Studio features which help developer to track which has been testing and which hasn't. So Android Studio feature called test coverage. Basically, it does all the unit tests in the class, running something with the test coverage, and there you can see a little window here which some information number or collects percentage based on how much test on number and line number of tests that I tested in class, and then double click on here. So you can see here a lot of information on dates, and no activity member engine and no view model factory, which is generated through the dagger. So we don't actually need to care, but we care about node view model. Generally speaking, those numbers are quite good. I'm sure the question came to my mind. How much coverage should you have tested method? Every line of code. I think the answer the question, there is a developer different work environment. It's not a straightforward answer to that question. Some developers think they wanna have 100% fully coverage always, but others don't think they're realistic or necessary or even consuming time. So I am among the second group. I'm also think it's I don't think it's always realistic, even practical. There are something don't need to be unit tests, but something definitely needed. I would say, like, overall, my advice is just try to be practical and think about the testing. You write it based on kind of wider potential problems or really tricky logic. So let's move on the UI test. So in here, I just want to make sure to navigate from node list activity to node activity is worked or not. Here, I'm using the system best spreads. You can use it as well. Mostly we use like on view, which is same with something else. Maybe in here we have the we might have our custom best spreads. You can use it. It's same, and this one is from the system. Okay. So if you face this kind of error, so you can go inside to your real device or emulator. So there have developer options, and then enable the don't keeps activity. After that, rerun again. So should be worked. So what is a test suite? Test suite. Test suite will help you run your test in one time. So here I'm just put into two test classes inside the test suite classes, and which it ran it, and there below you can see I put inside the two test classes no list activity and no activity. So we just ran it. We just ran two class one time. And then for the espresso idling resource, I've been working with the espresso idling resource pretty recently. So I remember if we have any such kind of delay, I mean thread, calling the remotes, calling the data from local database, so such kind of delay. So we always have to register this idling resource with this before annotation, with the after annotation, and register is kind of bunch of things that we need to every single time. So we might use the idling resource like tones or classes, so that let's make it the customized. Let's you customize. So every single test class before every single test. So what a test rule, what a test rule can do, as you are probably guessing from how we've used them before, like the activity scenario rule. So it's kind of create a predefined set of things that we get that will happen before each test function. So for example, activities net rule here. This create a stimulated activity, a brand new when before each test function is run, so the new activity get created in the background. So we can use just the lines of code when we after we create a command. So that it's proper for us to test. So we can actually create custom rules that define custom behavior to save us from writing code, and also it makes sort of setup procedure more shippable to other class. So if you can imagine like that in the espresso idling resource class. So if we have the list, we will have to register in this every single ones of our test class. So why not create a rule for it, so that we don't have to write this. We can do in one line. We don't have to write like that. And then okay, so it is for the debug and release for the idling resource. So we use idling resource for the debugs only, so that we don't need for the release. So you just need to create the two folder, debugs and release. And inside the debug, you have to put here, this is incremental or decremental. For the release, we don't need it, right? So that for the release, you just need to create like this. This is for the debug and release for idling resource. Okay. So for the you can run a test with the Firebase using the Firebase test lab. So this is basically you need to do you need to go to the Firebase console and register application using the package name, and then download the Google service file and put inside here. And then you need to put into some libraries like Google Play Service inside the build.gradle. After that, you can create it. So here you can give a name, and then you can choose which test class you can test it, and then like is a target. So here we are trying to test with the Firebase, and then metric configuration, you can customize your yourself. Like you can use the virtual device or the real device, and inside the virtual inside the like a physical device, you can pick it up the device model like Google Pixel, and then like Samsung Galaxy or S10 or something like that, and then you can you can give the API level as well. After that, you can if you run it, which will publish it to the Firebase test lab, and then you can see the results. So here key takeaway is like testing on Android like mixing, intermediating, like for the learning rate, it will save you from many headaches. Like you are you're not forgetting you're not forgetting your previous function. You're not missing your previous function, and then all of the functions are probably work or not. You can make sure it with the only one click. And before you jump into the Android testing, like you need to simplify your code base with the clean architecture, which need to be testable, and then like read and then like hands-on some custom test template that I show you, which also will improve your development time, and using common resource for tests, like creating the common test class, which can use commonly, and then check the test coverage and use the test suite for run all of your tests, and then use the Firebase test lab, and then trying to create a custom test rule. So if you want to keep learning, so there is a JUnified documenter. I prefer it. There are tons of the testing that you might need it. And thank you. Ooh. Hello? Okay. How do we integrate? Oh, okay. On unit test, normally how much coverage code that is target for? As I told you, it's depend on you. For my side, it's like you just need to to do like such kind of tricky and such kind of big logic. So no need to have the full 100% test coverage. So it's depend on you, depend on how much your unit test is important. Yeah. And then next question. How do you allocate effort for each testing? Testing respectively. So for me, as my experience, I truly ran the unit test first. So firstly, I'm just trying to make sure, let's say, as a simple query I would like to get from the local, so that I'm trying to test my query is correct or not. And then there I expected two things, and throw an error, like accepting the error case, and then the like getting the list case. After that, I try to make sure the repository, which is need to carry the data from cache to the build model. So I'm tested the repository. After that, I test the build model, which is the actually build the past data, the build model or not. I'm really hands-on on the UI test. but mostly I work on the unit test and then the instrumentation test, which is more important for me. Such kind of, like running the recycler view on giving 1,000 objects or things like that. Um, Actually, as I told you, the unit testing and integration testing is very similar, except some Android related things. Some are the Android lifecycle. So JUnit unit test is just a method, just a simple method. We want to make sure. I can show you. Like, let's say there is a method which is the to make sure the responding the date timestamp is correctly or not. So at that time we use the uh, um, unit test. For the instrumentation test, we might have the same sort of the things like the um, uh, database thing, which need the Android. So at that time we use the instrumentation test. Yep. So is there any question? If you have some other question, don't need to hesitate and feel free to reach it to me. I'm using the Twitter, Facebook as well. Just type the Zoom yet. Maybe I can share. Uh, uh, for the UI testing, you if you have the large scale application, let's say you have, well, hey, so it's suitable for the large scale application. You have the tons of feature, maybe 1,000 or 100 feature at the time you need for the UI testing to make sure all of your components, all of your things are probably work or not. It looks like the regression testing. Hello. Goodbye everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye.